What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Adventure Outpost, your hub for all things movie related. In today's adventure, we are diving into 50 more of my favorite movies since the year 2000. Today's genre that we are diving into is that good old genre, the drama genre. That's right, that genre encompasses a whole bunch of nonsense. Drama is such a vague term when it really goes into that genre, because pretty much anything can be dramatic. All genres are dramatic. It just depends on the scene that you're in. Even comedy movies have dramatic elements to it. So drama was a really tough one for us to do here. I tried to really just confine the parameters of what I was looking for. When I went to IMDb, the way I did it was that if the first genre that came up was drama, then it was eligible for this. Obviously, there are a few here that can fall into a lot of other categories, but I didn't really want to put them in other categories because I didn't think that they fit so well into that one. So I kind of bent the rules a little bit and shimmied their way here into drama. So obviously, we're getting a whole list of movies that are kind of all over the place for this one, but I think it works. I think all of these movies do have the most dramatic flair of them that I think. Obviously, a lot of the times I try to keep out war movies because war movies are their own genre, but even though war movies can be very dramatic, so I'm trying to move those ones out there. But then it was trying to do big fantasy movies that were really dramatic, but I don't really do fantasy as a genre, or I fit fantasy and action adventure kind of all in together into one family style genre. They're kind of all over the place. Really, it's whatever you want to do, whatever you feel deserves to be in a particular genre. That's what you can party with. No judgment here, however you like to do them. I simply on this one did these movies the way I did them for this one. If it works for you, cool. If it doesn't, just tell me to go fuck myself and move on with your life. That's how we're going to do this one here today. But we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to get right into it. We're going to dive into my 50 favorite drama movies that have come out of the turn of the century since the year 2000, and we're going to kick it off with 2020's Sound of Metal. This movie kind of came in under the radar. It was released on Amazon Prime. Came out during the pandemic. Not a lot of people, even though we had nothing to do but watch movies, I still feel like I didn't hear a lot of people talking about this movie. I was happy that I got a lot of love at the Academy Awards, but when I talked about it with people that watch movies, nobody had ever really heard of it when I talked about it, which is a shame because this movie is really freaking good. It has great performance by Riz Ahmed in it, as he is a drummer that is dealing with his hearing, and it's just going, and he's going to have to deal with the fact that he's someday soon going to be deaf. It's just a really fantastic drama movie, just buoyant by some really great performances. Up next is Gran Torino, a Clint Eastwood classic where we just follow a really just bigoted old man as he has to deal with the people that he can't stand, and ends up striking up a relationship with this family and help protect them from some more of the nefarious members of the street gangs that roll around in this town that he's in. This is just a really solid Clint Eastwood performance, being as gruff as he always knows how to be, but just putting in just one stellar performance as always. Up next is Walk the Line, another movie just anchored by two fantastic performances by Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon actually won the Academy Award for this movie, and it's super well deserved. She's absolutely fantastic in this. This is a great movie that chronicles the life of Johnny Cash, and they both just bring such freaking just gravitas to it. This is a really phenomenal movie. After that is probably the most dramatic and well-made disaster movie ever. Disaster movies, I usually want a lot of cheese on them. You never really look for a disaster movie to make you cry or actually feel things or be very dramatic, but this movie changed the formula, and that is The Impossible, which is all about the tsunami that I believe happened in Thailand, I want to say. We'll look on the back here. It is Thailand, baby. Bam, look at that. This family goes on Christmas vacation in Thailand, and they end up being caught up in the absolutely crazy tsunami that happens during that time, and they all get separated, and it all follows the harrowing journey as they all try to get reunited. Freaking Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor are fantastic in it. Ewan McGregor has a scene where he's just on the phone trying to reach people that is just so gut-wrenchingly good. Just phenomenal actor. Young Tom Holland in here too. I think this might be the first Tom Holland performance anyone ever really saw him in, and he's fantastic in it. Everybody in this movie is so freaking good. It's just such a sad and triumphant movie all at the same time. It's fantastic. After that is Eastern Promises, Viggo Mortensen. Naomi Watts showing up again here. Look at that, the twofer for her. This is all about Russian gangsters and the mafia and everything. It's fucking fantastic movie from David Cronenberg. Viggo Mortensen is so goddamn good in this role. Like, he just portrays it so fucking well. He's just one of the fucking most fantastic actors that we've seen in a while. I actually just saw David Cronenberg's son's movie that just came out, Infinity Pool, and dear God, the Cronenbergs need some help. Steven Spielberg pops up for the first of many movies that we're going to see here on this list with Bridge of Spies. Now, I know normally what I said before, I kept war movies out of it, but this isn't so much a war movie. This is more of a spy movie that's just set during war times. Specifically, this one is the Cold War, and it deals with the tensions between Russia and the United States, where we have a Russian spy, and we end up trading him for I believe it's a couple of soldiers that we have on their side, and it follows Tom Hanks, who is a lawyer that ends up dealing with the transfer of power of giving away the Russian spy, who I believe is played by, what's his name? I'm going to look on the back here. I try not to look at the back, but sometimes you just got to look because there's too much thoughts in your head. Mark Rylance. That's who it is. Fantastic. I'm pretty sure he won the Academy Award for this movie also, because Mark Rylance is just really fucking good. It's another actor that just came out of nowhere and just fantastic performance after fantastic performance. After that is this movie North Country. I remember seeing this in film school. We watched it. I'd never even heard of it, but it was so blew me away. Charlize Theron, absolutely fantastic in this movie as a woman that's breaking barriers, being a woman that's going to work in the iron mines, I believe it is. Yeah, it's not the... Yeah, they're working in the iron mines. She's going to work, doing coal mining with the boys. This is just a really fucking good movie, which is fantastic performances in it. Charlize Theron especially. Frances McDormand's really good in this. I believe Woody Harrelson's in here too. Like, it's just a stellar cast. It's just a really good movie, and I love when I can watch movies about stuff that I don't really know too much about, and then it invites you to want to go and learn more about it afterwards. I love when we get movies like this, and I love when I can find movies like this. So this movie's an absolute classic for me. Up next is only one of two movies that we're going to go to on this list that I don't own, and that is Marriage Story, the movie starring Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. It's an absolutely phenomenal movie all about a husband and wife as they go through divorce. It is just so, bleak and intense and beautiful and gut-wrenching, and just it swirls you through all the fucking emotions, and the acting in it is so goddamn good. When Scarlett Johansson is going in the scene where she's talking with Laura Dern, talking about her love for him and why she wants to get divorced and everything, it is just fucking just great acting. And then when the two of them have their big blowout fight at the end that so everybody memed to death is another one that's just absolutely fun. This is a movie that's just stellar fucking acting in it, and it just races you through that movie. You're just glued to the screen because the acting is just so fucking powerful in it. I've absolutely loved it. Up next is David Fincher's The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. It's another fantastic movie following Brad Pitt about a guy who ages backwards, and so we follow his life as an old man as he goes all the way back into childhood and eventually just going back to being a fetus. It's just a very wild and bizarre movie, but it's just so freaking good, buoyant by an incredible direction from David Fincher. He is just one of the most interesting directors around. And of course, you got two stellar performances in Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett. A movie that absolutely nobody went and saw in 2021, but I fucking loved, and that is The Last Duel. Adam Driver showing up here again. This is the story. It's kind of like Rashomon in the sense that we're getting three different stories told from three different perspectives, all about the brutal rape of this young woman. And it follows as we get the story from Adam Driver's perspective, who is the man that raped her. Then we get it from Matt Damon's perspective, who is the man that is married to the young woman. And then we finally get the young woman's perspective, which is probably the closest one to the truth in the movie. And then it all culminates in this huge battle between the two of them as they fight for each other's honor. Really, Matt Damon saying he's fighting for her honor, but really he's fighting for his own, and Adam Driver's fighting for his name. It is just a fucking fantastic movie with just really good performances in it. Everybody in it is absolutely fantastic, and I realize I've been pointing here for Matt Damon, but that's Matt Damon, that's Ben Affleck. You get the picture. Yeah, Ben Affleck's in here also as the king. He comes in and out. He's hilarious in the movie. But this movie is just stellar. I know a lot of people didn't go see it. I'm sure it's on streaming and places you could find now. If you haven't seen it, I implore you to check this one out. It is really freaking good. Up next is one of three Martin McDonagh movies that we're going to see on this list, and that is In Bruges. Just an absolutely stellar movie starring Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson about these two hitmen that are just hiding out in Bruges after a hit gone wrong, and it just follows their adventures in there as Colin Farrell is dealing with the fallout of what went wrong in that hit. It's silly, it's hilarious, it's over the top, it's poetic, it's everything you want in a movie all rolled into one. The dialogue is absolutely fantastic. Martin McDonagh is probably one of the greatest screenwriters that working today. He's just his dialogue is just so juicy. It's just fantastic, and I love his movies because like the dialogue, the characters are just so well orchestrated through their dialogue that it's so mesmerizing to watch it. Denzel Washington's directorial debut here, Antoine Fisher. It is the story of Antoine Fisher as he has to see a therapist to deal with his violent temper while he's in the Navy, and it just follows his life as he's dealing with all of these issues that arise. It's just a really fantastic dramatic movie. Freaking Denzel Washington really should direct more stuff because he has an absolute flair for it. He is fantastic. He's also really great in the movie as the therapist that Antoine Fisher has to see. It's just a really reliably fantastic movie. Up next is The Last Castle, just a fantastic movie about Robert Redford, who is imprisoned for refusing a presidential order, and then he ends up just getting swept up in this rebellion in this prison that's going crazy because the warden is a fucking nutcase. Just a really freaking good movie. Just absolutely stellar. Robert Redford, fantastic. James Gandolfini, baby, can do no wrong. You got Mark Ruffalo in there in a supporting role before he would go on to do his MCU stuff. This is just a really solid mid-2000s movie that you should definitely check out if you haven't seen it. Another movie that came in under the radar in the mid-2010s is Gifted. Chris Evans. It gave us McKenna Grace here, who has been in so much stuff ever since this movie. You see her in pretty much everything these days. I think her latest one was in Ghostbusters. You could also see her on Handmaid's Tale, and she's in so much other stuff. She is just an absolute force. She is such a fantastic actress for her age, and she's only going to get better as she goes along. This movie is so good about Chris Evans, who is caring for his sister's daughter, his sister having died and left her in his care, but he is a man who lives nice below his means, and he has what he has, and he's not trying to like be showy or anything, but it leaves other people thinking that this girl, who is actually like a super genius, is not getting the care and the attention that she needs under his care. So people try to come in and take her out from under him, and it follows their relationship as he battles to keep her in his life. It is just a beautiful movie. I cry at the end. It's just so fantastically good. I love this movie. It's adorable. Charlize Theron pops up again, the movie Monster. This movie is absolutely harrowing. It is just intensely disgusting and just intensely fucking good. Charlize Theron plays this serial killer who was a prostitute that was just picking up dudes and just murking them afterwards. It's just an insanely messed up movie following the real life Aileen Wuornos, I think her name is, and her subsequent life dealing in the ring of prostitution. It's just really good. Christina Ricci is really phenomenal in it too. This is just another one just buoyant by some fantastic performances. A movie that I feel like a lot of people unfairly hate on because it won Best Picture, and a lot of the times when a movie wins Best Picture that people don't think is deserving of it, it just gets shit on for the rest of the time. And that's A Beautiful Mind. I think this movie, I really enjoy this movie. I think it's really freaking great as we follow Russell Crowe as he's this mathematician that also is a bit on the spectrum, and you're dealing his life as he goes through all these things trying to figure out this like entangled conspiracy, and it follows like everyone along with him as he's trying to figure this stuff out, and they don't know if it's because he's crazy or whatnot and everything. Just a really solid movie from Ron Howard. I really enjoyed this movie when it came out that year. I go back to it every few years. It's just one of those movies that I just dig. You know, I get maybe a lot of people might not, maybe, you know, thought it was undeserving or whatever it is, but for whatever it is, I like this movie for what it is. Sure, did other movies maybe deserve to win Best Picture over it? Possibly. It's all very subjective what deserved Best Picture or not. It's a popularity contest when it really gets down to it, but I think this movie is definitely deserving of its acclaim. We get the second entry of one of my favorite trilogies, and that is Before Sunset. Just such a beautiful, simple movie about two people that just have a conversation and fall in love through this conversation. Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy are fucking fantastic in this. Richard Linklater, fantastic director in this, just keeping it such a minimalistic flair to it as we follow these two as they link back up together after their last dalliance, and they just walk around and have a conversation. They have a conversation about everything and nothing, and it is absolutely beautiful. One of the silliest dramatic movies on this list, and that is the Coen brothers' Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, following George Clooney, Tim Blake Nelson, and John Turturro as they just go through the antebellum South, and they get into a whole bunch of hijinks. It's basically like The Odyssey, but just with hillbillies that are escaping from jail. It's a lot of fun. It has a lot of dramatic moments to it, a lot of great, fantastic performances in it. It's a Coen brothers movie, man. You know what you're getting into with them. It's going to be weird, it's going to be wild, it's going to be fun, it's going to be dramatic. You're going to get everything that you want out of it and more. After that is Quentin Tarantino's 9th directorial movie, and that is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, following Leonardo DiCaprio as he is aging out of Hollywood and deals with the fact that it might be leaving him behind. And we also follow along with his stuntman slash driver, Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt, just being the most Brad Pitt he can possibly Brad Pitt in a movie. Margot Robbie is also in there, along with the cast of colorful characters and Tarantino's usual suspects in these movies. This is just a fun movie through 1960s Hollywood that has all of the beautiful flair that you would expect from a Quentin Tarantino movie, along with all of the absolute violent spectacle. Martin McDonagh shows up for the second of 3 movies in this one, and that is last year's The Banshees of Inisherin. This movie is just so freaking good. This is a movie that I knew nothing about when I went to go see it, other than it was written and directed by Martin McDonagh, and I knew that that was all I needed to know because I loved his last 2 movies, and so I didn't need to know anything in this other than it was him and it was the In Bruges dudes again, and I was glad I knew nothing about it because it just made it such a rewarding experience watching this movie of this friendship just dissolving. Between Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell, and the feud that would ensue because of it. It's hilarious, it's over the top, it's dramatic, it's wild, it's silly, it's one of those movies that was a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be. And it's, again, his dialogue, he's just so good at writing dialogue that he could have this movie that's literally just a friendship falls apart, and it's just so dialogue driven, but it's just so good and hilarious and dramatic at the same time. He's an absolute fucking legend. Denzel Washington shows up again in Flight. I fucking love this movie. There's just something about this movie that just speaks to me. Maybe it's the copious alcoholism and the drug use, but well, hey, it's a great fucking movie regardless. This tells the story of a pilot who is an alcoholic and drug addict, and he lands a plane in an impossible scenario, but it turns out that he was fucking wasted while doing it. So he goes through all of these hoops and hurdles and having to answer for all of his sins throughout this movie, dealing with this problem while he is in the news for being like one of the most courageous and heroic people of all time. It's just such a great juxtaposition. It's just an absolutely fantastic movie, and Denzel Washington is fantastic in it. Up next is the music biopic Straight Outta Compton. I actually didn't catch this one in theaters. I didn't catch it until a few years after on home video release, and it's a shame that I didn't get to see it in theaters because it was just so goddamn good. I could have only imagined how good it would have looked up on the big screen. This is a fantastic movie all about the NWA and how they went through their lives and all the crazy shit that they caught up to in their rise to musical fame. You got Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Eazy-E in there. It is just an absolute fantastic look into the 80s and 90s LA rap scene. Go fuck yourself. It's Argo. Another just stellar dramatic movie here. Freaking love Ben Affleck in this movie. It's directed by Ben Affleck as well. Tells the story about a group of people that go in and are pretending to film a movie in a war-torn area so that they can try and get a bunch of kidnapped people out and get them back to safety. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it's just a really fantastically well done movie too. This movie came out the first year that I started working at my movie theater too, and this movie just did gangbusters for months, man. Senior citizens ate this movie up, and for good reasons. It's just so good. It's one of those movies that's just reliably good. Like, it's just absolutely entertaining. And we're gonna get fucking dark, and it's Drive, Ryan Gosling's Drive. He's a stunt driver that just has an absolutely violently disgusting temper in this movie. This is just a really just great neon haze movie that then just has these insane bursts of spectacular violence in them. The elevator scene is just fucking brutal. When the criminals that he gets involved with in this, and as this movie just starts to devolve into chaos and just violence, it is just a sight to behold. My boy Tom Hanks shows up again here. It is Castaway, for a movie that they were just listen, it's just going to be Tom and a volleyball. And everyone was just well, that's going to be interesting. And it was fucking incredible. This is just an absolutely stellar movie. This is another one of those movies that I can just put on in the background and I can just always watch it. It's just so good. Tom Hanks is absolutely fantastic in the movie. The relationship he has with the volleyball that just gets you to love that volleyball just tells how good of an actor this man is. It's just one of those movies that's just above and beyond what the premise was. You're okay, yeah, that might be something, and then it just ends up being so much more than you hoped it would be, and it hits on all cylinders. I love this movie. We've got the Sierra Leone Civil War up next. We got Blood Diamond. This is a fucking just stellar movie about Yaman Hunso and Leonardo DiCaprio as they team up and have to try and find Yaman Hunso's son during this civil war. Jennifer Connelly in there too as another, I think, journalist that gets swept up in the adventure as the three of them have to try and find his kids and also get out of this war-torn area. It is absolutely stellar. Edward Zwick Edward Zwick directed. It's hard. That's a tough one. Edward Zwick directed, who is an absolutely phenomenal director. Has made some of my favorite movies like The Last Samurai, Courage Under Fire. I think he did Glory, I want to say. I could be completely wrong on that one, but he's done some stellar movies. The Last Samurai obviously is my favorite of the bunch because that's just how fucking good that movie is. But this movie is just another stellar one. I remember seeing this one in theaters, and it is another one we didn't really know much about. We just saw Leo, and we were like, fuck yeah, baby, let's go. And this was the movie that made me like really love Iman Hunso. It was like one of the first movies I think I saw with him in it, and then I went back and caught all of his other stuff, like Amistad and everything. Like, he is such an underrated actor. I wish he was in more stuff. 2021's Drug Trip, The Green Knight, is up next. This is just an absolutely fantastic movie about, what's his name? Sir Gawain, as he must fight the Green Knight, who is a man that shows up and says, whoever can best me, I will return the favor in 1 year. And fucking Gawain, just being the boss, chops the dude's head off. And then it turns out you can't kill him. And he's just like, all right, now in a year from now, you're going to come find me and I'm going to chop your fucking head off. And he goes on this journey of self-discovery as he goes to face off against the Green Knight. And it is just a wondrously glorious, drug-fueled tale that is just a visual splendor and a sight to behold. This movie is absolutely fantastic. My favorite of the Before movies, we've got Before Midnight. This is the ending of the trilogy, at least until hopefully we're getting close to the point where maybe they might make a fourth one. Can we get another one, baby? I'm hoping. This one is my favorite for now, though. It is absolutely stellar. It catches up with them now, however many years after Before Sunset. They're married now. They've been living together for a while. And this whole movie is basically just a culmination of everything that we've seen before it in this one huge, glorious fight that just is about everything and anything. And it just, by the end of it, they end up being closer than ever. It's just one of those movies that's just absolutely fantastic. Again, and just how simple it is, but just so gloriously well done. It is just an absolutely fantastic movie. An absolutely intense movie is up next. That is the movie Detroit, directed by Kathryn Bigelow. It's just a movie about just one insane night in Detroit when some really just fucked up shit happened. You got some stellar cast in there. You got fucking everybody. You got fucking, look at this. Everybody is in this movie. I gotta take a look back here and see. Everyone's in this movie, but I don't even know everyone's fucking name right now. We're gonna have to really dig deep in there. All right, so here we go. You ready? We're gonna dig it out. We got John Boyega, Will Poulter, John Krasinski, Anthony Mackie. Like, damn, man. I don't even remember John Krasinski being in this. I'm gonna have to watch this movie again and see who he was playing in this movie. But this is just an absolutely fantastic movie. Set from Kathryn Bigelow, who also did The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30. She just makes just fantastic fucking movies that are just gripping with tension and are just so fucking well done that you're just like glued to the screen. An absolutely wild movie from Taika Waititi. We got Jojo Rabbit. This is another movie that I remember when the trailer dropped, I was like, oh my fucking god, like there's no way. How are they going to get away with this movie? And then the movie ended up being fucking fantastic. Like it is hilarious. It is silly. It is over the top. But it's also beautiful and just has a great message behind it, and also has some really just poetically sad moments in it as well. This is a movie that is just absolutely fantastic on every level. I think it is just so well done. This is probably Taika Waititi's best movie that he's done, and it's just fantastic on every level. Up next is the second movie that we talked about where I said I didn't own it in the collection yet. It actually came out today, but I haven't had a chance to go pick it up yet, and that is Steven Spielberg's latest movie, The Fabelmans. I fucking loved this movie. I love Steven Spielberg, so naturally I'm just inclined to love everything that he did, but this movie especially is just absolutely fantastic. I am just a sucker for coming-of-age stories, and him telling the story of his own kind of childhood and how like he was propelled towards becoming a director and dealing with the fallout of his family issues and everything as a child that we go through as we, age and deal with our family and everything. It's just an absolutely beautiful film telling of a filmmaker who went on this incredible journey to become one of the greatest directors of all time. Up next is a movie that I remember when they announced it, I was like, we don't need this fucking movie. Are you kidding me? And then it turned out to be like one of the greatest fucking movies ever made. And that is The Social Network. Yep, I never thought in a million years I ever needed a movie about the fucking origins of Facebook. I was like, who gives a fuck? Fuck Facebook. But this movie is absolutely fantastic. David Fincher, again, just one of the greatest directors of all time. Everybody in this movie is so freaking good. Jesse Eisenberg is the perfect person to play Mark Zuckerberg. You got Andrew Garfield in there, fantastic. Justin Timberlake in there, fantastic. Armie Hammer, the cannibal himself, also fantastic. He's got a twofer in this one. Super fantastic. This movie is just one of those movies that is just so expertly crafted that you're just like floored and just glued to the screen from start to finish. a movie that came in under the radar that I didn't really even know about until we got it at my theater, and then we watched it, and I was like, fuck, I love that movie. And that is Aaron Sorkin's Molly's Game. This is just an absolutely incredible movie. Jessica Chastain plays Molly Bloom, who is a woman that ends up running an underground poker game and becomes this huge fucking underground poker legend that deals with all of these shady people and everything, and it involves as she starts getting all this litigation and stuff taken against her as she is being culpable for all that shady shit she was doing. Idris Elba plays her lawyer trying to get her out of the jam as she has to answer for all of her crimes. It's just an absolutely stellar book, stellar movie. I don't know why I said book. I'm all over the place right now. It's late. We're diving in deep to these. Words are not coming to me so well. This is a stellar movie, though, which is absolutely fantastic. The fact that it's based on real life shit, too, is absolutely also stellar. Like, I love the fact that Michael Cera, who is like the douchebag Hollywood guy that like plays poker, is like a stand-in for like Toby and Leo and all those people. Like, that cracks me the fuck up. I never would have thought a movie about independent oil people would be fucking stellar and fantastic and one of the greatest movies of all time, but here we are, and it's Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. I remember seeing this opening night. We had to see it in the front row because the theater was packed, and we didn't even care. We were just we were looking up like this, and we were just glued to the screen because the movie was just so fucking magnetic, and you just couldn't take your eyes off the screen. Probably my favorite Daniel Day-Lewis movie. I think this is, even though he's done so many great things, I think this is my favorite performance of his. He is just unglued and unchained as fucking Daniel Plainview. He is just an absolute horrible human being in this movie, and it is insanely entertaining watching just him go through the motions in this movie. Paul Dano, also fucking fantastic supporting actor. Second movie of his to show up on here. We just did The Fabelmans with him in it. He is just an underappreciated actor. That man is a fantastic character actor. This is just a fucking fantastic movie. We come to the last of Martin McDonagh's movies here, and that is Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I fucking love this movie. This is probably my favorite Frances McDormand movie. She is just an absolute force in this movie. She is just so fucking goddamn good. Woody Harrelson, also fantastic in this movie. And Sam Rockwell, one of the best Sam Rockwell performances. Like, he is just so viciously evil, but also, like, somewhat like there's a humanity to him underneath. Like, you end up hating this guy in the beginning of this movie, and then by the end of it you're like totally gung-ho about him, and you're like, fuck yeah, man, let's go, racist dude. Like, it's just so just weird, and how well it works, and just how good Martin McDonagh is at writing characters, that they could humanize people like this and get you at the end to, even if you don't agree with them, to sympathize with them somewhat. This is just an absolutely stellar movie. It's just so fantastic. You should absolutely see this movie and all of his other movies. If you've never seen a Martin McDonagh movie, do yourself a favor and go have a marathon right now. This is another movie that not a lot of people end up liking, but I don't know why, because I think it's fucking fantastic. I can watch it anytime it's on, and that is American Gangster. Another Denzel Washington performance here, another Russell Crowe performance here. Ridley Scott directed. This is just an absolutely stellar movie to me, following Frank Lucas as he becomes one of the largest suppliers of heroin during the Vietnam War, I believe it is, because he's shipping it in from over there, and it follows Russell Crowe as the cop who is trying to take him down. Just absolutely stellar fucking movie with just two phenomenal performances from two powerhouse actors. A movie that I think is probably a lot higher than most people would put up here, but for me, I fucking love it, and that is Peter Jackson's King Kong. Now, I know this is another one where we're starting to get a little like, we're kind of just bridging genres here, because I know for some people they might not consider this a drama movie, but I do, because even though it deals with, you know, a giant monkey and everybody coming across like Skull Island and everything, I feel like it's always buoyant by a dramatic element to it. Like, it takes itself super seriously, and it bridges this huge dramatic undertow between the love story between a monkey and this woman in this story, that I think it deserved a place here in this list. And on IMDb it had drama in it anyway, so it was getting in there. I love this movie. I remember the first time I saw it, I was not the biggest fan of this movie. I guess I just wasn't in the right mind frame when we saw it in theaters or whatnot, but for whatever it is, since it came out in theaters and the amount of times that I've watched it afterwards, I just fucking love it. I think it gets better and better every time I watch it. It's just an absolutely stellar movie from Peter Jackson. It's one of those movies where, like, they finally took a movie that deserved to get a remake with what you can do with special effects these days and made it just absolutely stellar. It's just one of those movies that I absolutely love. The whole first half of them going to Skull Island is so great. On Skull Island is just so otherworldly and exciting and fun, and then the whole last half of the movie in New York City is just take your breath away. It's just absolutely fantastic work from Peter Jackson. Up next is probably my favorite musical biopic, and that is Ray. It is the story of Ray Charles with Jamie Foxx playing Ray Charles. I think this is Jamie Foxx's best work, too. There's just an absolutely stellar movie going through the life of Ray Charles and everything that he had to overcome to become one of the greatest musicians of his time. It's hard sometimes to watch this movie without laughing after having seen Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, because they make fun of so many elements of this movie, and it works so well in the spoof, but like it works because you always make fun of the best, and this is one of the best musical biopics to ever do it. They hit all the right notes with this movie. They got just all the right elements to come together and just create just an electrifying movie. One of my favorite Sam Mendes movies is up next. That is Road to Perdition. One of the few movies where we get to see Tom Hanks play a despicable person. This movie is absolutely just phenomenal, talking about like mafia and gangster people during the 20th century, as we follow Tom Hanks with his son as they try to get away from all these shady characters, and they go on the run of this unforgettable journey of just redemption and vengeance. It's just so good. You got young Daniel Craig in there, Jude Law is in there, Paul Newman. Like, there's just a stellar cast of characters in this movie, and it is just an absolutely stellar movie. And now here again, we have another spot here where people are probably going to say, well, I don't know if I would consider that a drama movie. But throughout all the movies, it takes itself so seriously. It is so epic and built up through its dramatic through line that I think it works here in this one. And I didn't really know what other genre to put it in. Like, I don't think it, like, even though there's battle scenes, I don't really think it's an action movie. And it, like, I mean, really, I should have done a fantasy genre and put it in that, but I just don't think there's enough fantasy movies to really make 50, or even like I don't know. It's so tough to do them. So I just put these ones in drama, so they're going to be in here. So just missing out on the top 10 in number 11th spot is The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Yes, I'm putting The Lord of the Rings in the dramatic category, which I think is deserving. I think these movies, like I said, have an absolutely super serious dramatic through line to them. They are some of the most beautifully epic movies ever made, so I think they are deserving of their spot here in the genre. The Return of the King is actually my least favorite of the Lord of the Rings movies. I mean, I think all of them are fucking amazing. As you can see, like, even though we're going through 50 in this one, the lowest spotting for it is 11. So clearly I love these movies. The Return of the King is at the bottom, mostly because I think the movie runs insanely too long towards the end. It has like 18 different endings. I do think there are some more sillier elements in this movie that kind of pull me out a little bit. Like, I hate the ghost thing, and I just can never get past the ghost thing, or especially that, like, the fight's not even over and he just goes like, all right, ghost, you fulfilled your oath, like, fuck off. It's like, what? Maybe wait until like Sauron's dead before you just let them go. I don't know, but for what, that's all it's all nitpicking stuff, because Return of the King still has so much fucking amazingly incredible action in it. Everything with Frodo and Sam is just fucking phenomenal. It's so beautiful, the relationship between the two of them as they put themselves, like, it has probably the greatest line ever in the history of cinema, where he goes, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you, and picks him up and carries it. Like, there's just so many great fucking elements to that movie that it outweighs whatever nitpickiness I have about it. We've made it now to the top 10, and kicking us off here in the top 10, right here in number 10, is The Aviator, Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, all about the life of Howard Hughes, an industrialist and movie producer that has so many kinks and weirdness about him, and it follows his life as he goes through his whole journey and all to creating this absolutely insane legacy that he has left behind. It's just a stellar fucking biopic. It just works so well. I freaking love this movie. I can watch it whenever it's on. If I turn the TV on, I see it's on. I can't turn it off. At that point, I'm just like, oh, I'm watching The Aviator now. Just an absolutely stellar movie. One of the best Leonardo DiCaprio performances as well. Sean Penn gives one of the greatest performances ever in Mystic River, a Clint Eastwood directed movie, all about these three friends that have grown up, that had this crazy ass thing happen to them as they were kids, and now they've kind of all drifted apart, and this terrible thing brings them all back together as adults, and they just get into this like insanely just dark and gritty story of just vengeance and redemption and rape and just murder, and it's brutal, but it just gives some fucking amazing performances. Sean Penn, absolutely incredible in it. Tim Robbins, fucking incredible in it. Kevin Bacon, great in it. Everybody in this movie just firing on all cylinders. Absolutely fantastic movie. And number 8 is Erin Brockovich. It is a Julia Roberts movie all about a feisty young mother fighting for justice as she ends up working in this law attorney's office and ends up breaking this big case for a whole bunch of people. It is based on a true story. It's just an absolutely stellar movie. It's just one of those movies that's just effortlessly entertaining too. Like, just from the get-go. It's one of those movies that you know, like from like the first scene, you're just like, oh yeah, like I'm in for a treat. Like this is going to be great. I remember the first time I actually saw it was not too long ago. I watched it on the plane because it was one of those movies I had never seen before, and I was like, how have I never seen this one? Like I got to watch it. And it ended up being, it just blew me away. I was like, man, this movie is so fucking good. Like how have I been sleeping on this movie? And then I watched it like a bunch more times ever since then, and it just gets better and better every time. One of the best cautionary tale movies, but also at the same time just like a wondrous movie about bleeding for the art that you love, and that is Whiplash. Just probably one of the greatest movies ever made. Damien Chazelle just absolutely firing on his debut here. It follows the story of a young man who wants to be just like one of the best drummers, and he ends up getting in with this teacher who's going to take him to his absolute limit. He is an absolutely horrible human being, but there's something of a method to his madness that brings out the absolute best in his players. It is just an absolutely harrowing tale about how far you're willing to go to be the best. Steven Spielberg dropping in again for Munich tells the story about the secret Israeli police assassins that were detached to take out a bunch of Palestinians that were believed to have orchestrated the Munich massacre at the Olympics. It is just fucking such a cautionary tale about how far and how much revenge will just sully everything that you know and love. Like it's just freaking an absolutely stellar movie. Eric Bana has never been better. Another Daniel Craig outing in here. Like he was just a phenomenal supporting actor like early in the day. Jeffrey Rush in here. So many good fucking actors. I think Mance Rayder's in here too at one point. Like it's just so many fantastic actors in this movie that just bring this harrowing story to life. In the number 5 spot, there's a bunch of people that we've seen so many times over on this list. We've got Gangs of New York, another Leo movie, another Daniel Day-Lewis movie, another Martin Scorsese movie. This movie is absolutely incredible. We talk again about how much revenge will fucking be your own undoing. This is a movie that is just an epic story of revenge following Leonardo DiCaprio, who comes back to this, like little town in New York City, this little hub in New York City, to try and take down Daniel Day-Lewis, who was responsible for murdering his father so many years ago. It is just an absolutely bloodthirsty tale of revenge, and it is so fucking good. Daniel Day-Lewis is absolutely mesmerizing as Bill the Butcher in this movie. Leonardo DiCaprio, reliable as always. This has one of the craziest endings to a movie also. Like, it's just so fucking good. I love this movie. This is another Leo Scorsese movie that anytime it's on, I'm just like, well, I'm watching this now because it's that fucking good. In the 4th spot is The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Another just absolutely stellar movie. This is another one that is just so fucking epically good. It's just amazing. I watch these movies all the time so much. I think for an opening movie, this does so good a job at setting the stage. Like, doing that opening exposition like story, like talking about the ring and everything, in a lesser director's hand could have been fucking brutal, but he stages it in such a way that it's just so entertaining, and you don't even realize that you've watched like 20 minutes of like of a prologue before the movie even starts. It's just so freaking good. Everybody in this movie is cast perfectly. Elijah Wood, freaking Sean Astin, Dominic Monaghan, Billy Boyd, just everybody, fucking Viggo Mortensen, Ian McKellen. Just so, there's too many actors to name, but everybody is so perfectly cast in this movie. Everybody's bringing the A game. This is just such a thrilling and adventurous movie, and it blows my mind that this was like Orlando Bloom's first movie too. Like, imagine like coming out of film school and the first movie you make is the fucking Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like, that's fucking apeshit insane. Like, that's got to be so crazy to have experienced. Taking third is a semi-autobiographical tale from Cameron Crowe, and it is Almost Famous, one of my favorite movies of all time. I watched this movie just religiously as a kid. I watch it so much today. All about a young journalist, a young kid who wants to be a journalist and ends up going on the road with his 70s band that he loves, and just getting on the road. And it's pretty much a coming-of-age story about this kid losing his innocence and coming into the world and seeing the world for what it is. It's just absolutely amazing, and I love that it's kind of like an autobiographical tale of Cameron Crowe's own journey with Led Zeppelin, and Led Zeppelin's my favorite band of all time, so you can only imagine how much I love this fucking movie. Everybody in it's so freaking good, especially Kate Hudson, like one of her like fucking most fantastic performances. I love this movie. I can watch this movie anytime that it's on. This is one of those movies that we always say whenever I do these videos, like we always get to one movie where I'm like, fuck it, I want to watch this movie now after talking about it. Almost Famous is that movie in this video. I love that movie that much. The runner-up, I know we always talk about it again. The 1 and 2 spots are always the hardest ones to figure out. This one kind of was too, but not really. The number one movie. I know for a lot of people, they're gonna be like, really, that one's number one. But fuck it, it's my list. Whatever I love can be what I love. But the runner-up here is The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. The Two Towers is my favorite of the Lord of the Rings movies. Normally the middle chapter is the hardest one to nail, but they absolutely fucking nailed it in this movie. I just love that we get more of the world of Middle-earth and that we really open up the scope of the world, and as everyone starts to branch off into their own stories, and we follow Aragorn and company as they get involved with Helm's Deep and the Rohan and all that good stuff, and then we follow some of the hobbits as they're hanging out with Treebeard and shit, and then we're following Sam and Frodo on their journey towards Mordor. It just becomes such a more epic scope of a movie as we get into more of the politics of the world, and it is capped off with one of the greatest battles ever put to screen, fucking Helm's Deep. Just at times so fucking amazingly detailed and well done, but also lighthearted and fun at the same time. Like when fucking Legolas just like surfs the fucking shield down the steps and he's just fucking arrowing people to death. It's just like, this is one of the best movies ever made. Like bravo, Peter Jackson. Bravo. But there can only be one, and I know for a lot of people this is probably not your favorite. Like, it's probably one that you enjoy, but I don't think for most people it would be up in there. But it is for me. It's a movie that me and my brother watched religiously as kids, that we still quote to each other all the time. It has a lot of meaning to me with movies that I love to watch with my brother and my dad when I was younger. And of course, it is a Steven Spielberg movie, and it is Catch Me If You Can. I freaking love this movie. This is another one of those movies when we talk about a movie just being effortlessly entertaining. This is one of those movies. Just absolutely entertaining. I can quote this entire movie. Leo, absolutely stellar in it. Tom Hanks, absolutely stellar in it. It's one of my favorite Steven Spielberg movies. I just think it's so well done, telling just such a dramatic story while also keeping it lighthearted and moving and just fun throughout. It's just one of those movies that's just a perfect background movie. It's just it's just perfect to me. It's one of those movies that it just will never get old to me. I can always watch it. I will always love it. I love quoting it with my brother. We have so much fun quoting it. We've watched this movie so many times together. It's just one of those movies that has a very special place in my heart. And that'll do it. That is 50 of my favorite drama movies that have come out since the year 2000. We are firmly cruising along here in these genres here. I think the next one after drama that we will dive into now is the family section. That will be movies that'll be dealt with that aren't animated, but they're more geared towards younger audiences and families that can all come together and see these movies. So we'll dive into that one in the next adventure. I want to know down below though what you think of these drama movies. What were your favorite drama movies since the 2000s? Let me hear it, all that good stuff down below. And until the next adventure, you have been you, I have been me. These are the movies that we love so much. And until next time, I'll see you at the movies.